Hey everyone, welcome back to the October series where I am going over different questions or common questions from the WhatsApp groups, people on YouTube. Many people ask me, how do I get access to the WhatsApp group? I've been saying this in every video since I've been making videos, but I'll say it again. You message phil@ocdrecovery.com and that gives you access to our WhatsApp groups. And they're a lot of fun. There's nothing really like it. Most, if not every person that have come from big forums to come to our groups have said that the best thing about our groups is that they're very moderated and you cannot get away with reassurance. That's the best way to say it. Now, in today's video, I didn't take any questions for anyone in particular. I did want to take a break from that, but I still wanted to do common questions that I am asked about sensorimotor, also known as somatic OCD, also known as hyper-awareness. Now, inside this category, you have the sensorimotor hyper-awareness realm. You have the CRPS pain realm, whether it's not severe, it could be anything from severe chronic complex regional pain syndrome all the way to hyper-awareness of fear patterns, which then the fear of their life being ruined, etc., the fear of not being able to live the life they want to live, a lot of conditional life acceptance. Then you have the fibromyalgia world and stuff like that. And now they are different in their own ways, but there is a lot of crossover and carryover when it comes to changing your belief systems. I've never really met someone where if they've applied, read the books on the reading list, that they haven't made some level of improvement. We are not a CRPS company, but we do work with people that have severe CRPS. We've seen them go from wheelchairs to making, pretty much having their life fully back on track. Sure, pain is lingering in certain ways, but their life looks nothing like it did in the past. And this is a very important thing to talk about. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sensorimotor and hyper-awareness realm. Again, phil@ocdrecovery.com. So the most common question I get is, what is sensorimotor hyper-awareness somatic OCD? For the remainder of the video, I'm just going to call it somatic OCD. What we call it really doesn't matter. So it's a hyper-awareness of a bodily sensation. It doesn't just have to be the big five. Those are usually slightly more common. Blinking, breathing, swallowing, saliva, and your heartbeat. It could be anything from the bridge of your nose to I've had everything. Bridge of your nose, lips, inside your mouth, hyper-awareness of your limbs and bodily movement with a crossover of existential OCD, hyper-awareness of your consciousness, hyper-awareness of sounds, the tinnitus and ring in your ears, whether it's a whooshing sound or a train sound or a number or a letter, hyper-awareness of images. When it comes to all the different presentations and interworkings of somatic OCD, it doesn't really matter what it is because usually the core fears are the same. It's usually strong conditional life acceptance. If I notice this for the rest of my life is ruined. Now, if it's say a breathing OCD or something similar like that, or maybe a pain, there can be a belief system of death, right? Or not being able to take it anymore, which could lead to self-harm related fears. So this is why it's so important to come in for calls so I can look at the interworkings of your belief system and show you why it's not treatment resistant and why you're not as stuck as you think you are, because the way it presents in the body. Because so many people that come in for somatic OCD, no, I don't hear people talk about this, which leads me into question number 2. Why isn't ERP the gold standard for sensory or somatic OCD? And that's because, let's take the big 5. Blinking, breathing, swallowing, saliva, and your heartbeat. If you're so petrified of your breathing per se, laying on the ground a couple times a day for 10 minutes with a phone timer on, and just paying attention to your breathing can help you to a degree. But the problem is, because sensorimotor is, I'm going to call it sensorimotor from now on, just easier, is so misunderstood. You're going to breathe, salivate, swallow, blink. Your bridge of your nose is going to be there. You're going to have hair on your head. Your arms are going to move unless you lose an arm, etc., for the remainder of your life until you're dead. So exposures are typically for people who have a lot of avoidance behaviors. That's why I say the avoidance behavior with somatic OCD. Now I can't do it. Okay, I'm going to, whatever words I use for sensorimotor OCD. So I'm going to use that and then go backwards with that. For sensorimotor OCD is just living your life in general and bringing for the ride. So you're decreasing all your avoidance behaviors. Again, I cannot list all of them right now because it will look different from person to person. If someone comes in with tinnitus-based fears, whether they have tinnitus or it's fear of tinnitus doesn't actually matter. It doesn't really matter the presentation as well. If the person has to work on the belief systems about losing their hearing as well and their life being completely ruined because they're going to go deaf, that is something that will have to be worked on as well. But usually it's the fear of hearing the sound forever, it getting louder and disrupting you, not being able to concentrate, not being able to be present. And what were the big ones I had? Because this is what started my chronic OCD cycle for about half a year, which then landed me in the mental hospital because it switched to blinking and saliva and swallowing, which had lasted for 2 years. So didn't wear headphones anymore. Didn't drive with the windows down. Didn't use metal utensils, so like metal forks and knives. Told people to stop talking. Checked my ears against radiator vents all the time, my hearing it more. Watched every video on the American Tinnitus Association website like 30 times. Listened to numerous podcasts. Went to the audiologist many times. It's not that some of these are inherently bad, education and stuff like that. Going to an audiologist for a singular check if there's a health anxiety or health OCD involved in etc. This is why it's so important to sit the person down and see where they're coming from. But eventually I had to decrease all those avoidance behaviors. As I did that, my sensations and sounds got a lot worse. As I became more comfortable with my tinnitus-based sounds, that's when it latched over into blinking and then saliva and then swallowing, which then I was in the mental hospital about 6 weeks later. All because my fear, which was if I have to see that or hear this, smell this, feel this, whatever it may be, for the rest of my life is ruined. I'm never going to be able to enjoy anything ever again. So I had to break those down, which I'd say another good question for sensorimotor OCD would be, let me think of one that is very common, the background of what it is, the ERP. What do I have to do to get better? Let's just talk about that. Now, this is not an all-encompassing. It's much more nuanced than this, but for the purpose of the YouTube video, so reading all the books on the reading list, especially book 1, 2, and 5, which is Stubbornly Refuse, Claire Weeks' Self-Help for Your Nerves, and It Lasts a Life. It's not that the Myth of Self-Esteem and Viktor Frankl's book, which I'm actually reading again right here, and Marcus Aurelius' books aren't good. The books I just mentioned, book 1, 2, and 5, are very good to pertaining to sensations. Claire Weeks' book and Paul David's books alone would not get most chronic OCD, hyper-awareness, CRPS, fibromyalgia people to recovery. We're making progress because it's just about leaving it there. There's not really a belief system where a lot of people with even severe GAD or panic disorder may be able to get away with that, but some of these other conditions, the belief systems are more needed. And you have to first educate yourself. The first step in solving any problem, and not in an OCD solving sense, is to realize there's a problem and then start working on breaking down that problem. Then you have to start breaking down meticulously. There's no correct speed, but do realize that most OCD sufferers want to take their time, which is understandable, but that's usually a bad way to go. You don't have to jump all in at once because you're not going to be able to get rid of it all at once. And you're going to have to live your life and go towards it and bring your sensations everywhere with you. And when I mean everywhere, I mean everywhere. So I had to get back to work. I had to stop binge eating because I gained about 50 pounds. Stop smoking, stop using adult websites. These were all linked to my hyper-awareness cycles because I would do these things to avoid, not want to feel sensations, not want to be distracted. I had to start getting up earlier and again. So if I could put it in like a singular paragraph, sensorimotor recovery involves reading and educating, using that to slowly shift your belief systems to more unconditional life acceptance, sometimes self-acceptance, but it's primarily life acceptance with hyper-awareness. Says my life is ruined. I'm not going to be able to do things I want. As I decrease all my avoidance behaviors day in, day out, which then leads me to my last question is how long does it take? Which I can't answer that question because a lot of people, it's going to look different for everyone. For myself, my OCD became chronic in 2019, June. I was in the hospital by November 2019, so that's 6 months right there. And after that, probably another 2 years to change my belief systems and say my behaviors were very good. And then I will put a part 5 in here, which is, do you still notice your sensations? So that's a very bad question. The goal is to not to get rid of your sensations. I always say to people, hey, were you an athlete? Some people say, yeah, I played soccer or football. Maybe I played tennis. So you do realize you noticed your breathing the entire time, but you just weren't scared of it. That alone is not going to give you enough insight to break away from it, but it goes to show you why the goal is to never notice your sensations. So I live in a high desert in Colorado Springs, so we have a dust bowl that will get in my eyes, and I work out every day and hike mountains where oxygen's very low at 14,000 feet, 4,200 meters. So I notice my sensations, but there's no fear cycle. My brain doesn't, it's like I never had it, but it's better than never having it because my belief systems and higher frustration tolerance are higher than most humans. I don't really meet a lot of people that have high frustration tolerance the way I do, but it's not their fault. It's because I've had to train myself from years of 24/7 chronic hyper-awareness and suffering. So I'm also not afraid of it coming back. I don't want it to come back, but I have no fear of it coming back. My blinking could latch right now like this for the next year, just like boom, 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 and I would still work and do everything I have to do. It would be annoying, but I would just have to make the best of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this part. Remember, if you're in the WhatsApp groups and you haven't sent me, if you're on YouTube, comment down below and I'll still do more of these. It's the 21st, so I got about 10 more days of this. Thank you as always, Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Hope to hear from you soon, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.